Okay. Welcome everyone to our panel with L3harris for 2024. I am very excited about this panel. It's always a really great time. We're always very grateful that L3harris likes to do this panel with us. So today, joining us from L3harris, we have Melissa Olds, John Clement, and Melissa Rios. I'll let them all introduce themselves. Short description of your work experience, anything that you think would be useful for those in attendance to know. So whoever would like to start first, I'll let them do so.
Melissa, you want to start and I'll go and then John can go.
So my name is Melissa Rios. I am the Senior Engineering Manager for the Integrated Product Support Department, which we all work for. This department aligns underneath specialty engineering here at L3harris. So they have approximately 85 people that are in the department, but not all of them do technical writing. So integrated product support covers about 12 different functions, one of which is technical writing. That is my background. I graduated in 1995 from UCF TechCom program. Then 1996 started working for Harris Corporation, which is now known as L3harris. So I have approximately 23 years with L3harris and then about 6 more years with other different companies, doing technical writing, technical training development, logistics, business development, and then, the last year I stepped into the engineering manager position. So one of the things that I was very passionate about and had been struggling for years to try to get my managers to do was let me start an intern program to start bringing in other technical writers because we were hiring people that and putting them in technical writing positions, but they had no technical writing experience, and that was very frustrating to me. So about 2020, actually it was 2019, I finally talked my boss into letting me approach UCF, come over, talk to Dr. Flamia, who was one of my professors, um, and and have a conversation with this is what L3harris is looking for, this is what we can do, and we would love to have an intern with the tech writing program, which let us bring Melissa Olds in as our inaugural technical writing intern. Obviously, that went amazing. She did an amazing job, impressed us. Even though it was under COVID conditions, she did an amazing job. So we offered her a position to come back and work for us as a new college grad once she graduated. And then we then turned around and had John. And so John, you're number 2. We've had 3 additional ones, one of which is Leela, was our summer intern this year. So we have done a great job, and I have handed Melissa Olds the keys to the intern program. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to her so she can introduce herself to you.
Fantastic. Thank you. I'm the other Melissa. At work, they call me Mo to differentiate the two of us. As Melissa Rios said, I'm a UCF grad. I got my tech com degree in 2021. I did the internship in the summer of 2020. This is my second career. I had a whole other career first in legal administration, paralegal type work. So it's been really a cool experience to bring that legal writing forward into technical writing. There's a lot of similarities, there's a lot of differences, but I've had a lot of fun. I am going to be your primary contact when you have questions about the intern program. So you should now have a general intern program email that you can reach out to that comes straight to me. Or if you've got my email from previous years, you're welcome to reach out to me if you have any questions. John, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, awesome. And so, yep, I'm John Clement. I graduated from UCF in 2022, but I started the intern program as the second intern after Melissa in 2021. And it was it kind of started in a meeting just like this one. It was a panel presentation. Melissa Rios was featured on it and promoted the program. And, I applied, and then, a few rounds of interviews. I remember in particular, it was a interview with it was an interview where I was like, okay, this is something that I really want. I'm nervous, everything like that. But I was super happy to get it after, the rounds of interviews, and the internship experience was great. And once I graduated, I returned as a full-time technical writer. So I've been at L3harris full-time since 2022, so for a bit over 2 years now. And yeah, I'm very excited to talk about my experience, doing the technical writing, being on the integrated product support team, the areas that we function in, because we do technical writing, but there are other areas like logistics. There are different ways that we kind of support different teams, projects, parts of the company. So even though we're, technical writing focused, like our team, we touch and, support a lot of different areas. So it'll be a great opportunity for us during the presentation to talk about, just the ways that your degree, your past experiences, your future interests can be brought into L3harris for the internship program if you're interested in applying, and the cool opportunities that lie in TechCom in general. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Thank you all for introducing yourselves. We're now going to open it up for questions. So if you have a question, you're welcome to put it in the chat, or you can raise your hand and you can ask it yourself. And since our panelists have a wide range of experiences, feel free to just a question in general or specific to them and their experience. And it looks like we already have a question. Also, they would welcome questions about the internship specifically as well. But Juan, would you like to start us off?
Sure. My first question, I have a couple of questions, but my first one would be, I have heard that you can enter the field with a background in English. Is any sort of technical experience required to enter the field? Or, for example, in my case, my major is English, but it's not technical communications per se, it's just English. Technically, creative writing, but would that be enough to kind of like segue into the field or pivot there, or?
I'll jump in, and then Melissa, if you have something to, or John, amend at the end, you can. I would say that in technical writing, we often will have people who are emphasis technical writers and people who are emphasis writer technical. You kind of have to have one or the other when you come to it. So a lot of people will get into the field because they had a technical background, they have an affinity for writing, and they end up coming in and learning how to adopt styles and apply research techniques and all of that. Then you have a lot of us came to it with that tech writing English degree, which means as soon as we arrive, the first thing we do is start learning technical information as fast as we can. How do we learn technical information? How do we research? What does all of this mean? How does it all work together? So I would say that if I were, based on what you just said, if I were you, I would go and get some very strong technical background in something that you could talk about in an interview. So if you came to me with an English degree that's not a technical writing degree and said, I have an English degree, so I know how to make sentences, and you're probably familiar with a style guide and you know how to edit, and I can couple that with I have an extensive background in Python coding, or I worked for a summer doing maybe assembly of chips or something like that, where you can marry those two things together. I think that would still be a viable a thing to bring to an interview.
Yeah, so kind of just to tag on there, we do have some technical writers that came from UCF with a creative writing degree. Actually, I think another one was a literature degree, but they had a technical curiosity. So they had that curiosity of, well, how do things work? How do things get put together? So one of the questions, and I will Tina will be super mad, especially if you have her on the interview panel for the interns. But one of our subject matter experts in technical writing, one of her favorite questions to ask an intern is, so you're in your living room and your ceiling fan just stopped working. What's the first thing you do? So that is, and that question and how you respond to that question kind of shows your methodology of approaching a technical problem. And it's something simple like your ceiling fan. But how would you approach determining why it stopped working? And that's what she's looking for is you being able to think in a technical manner to to break down a technical problem and then describe it in a way that somebody who may not be as technical can understand it and follow those directions. So that is basically what technical writing is you are handed a piece of equipment or a piece of software and you need to be able to break it down in such a way that somebody who has never seen that software, never seen that hardware can actually use it, operate it, and be able to complete their job safely and efficiently. So if we prefer and we strongly encourage people to get a technical background of some sort because it will definitely be helpful. But if you've got a technical curiosity and you can show that in the interview, we might be, we might be persuaded to give you a shot at an internship. So.
Yeah, and I can hop onto that too and say, yeah, definitely agree with having either personal projects or extracurricular projects under your belt that you can showcase, that thinking like a technical writer, or having something to show, something to talk through during the interview process or even the application process. Since that's very helpful. I know when I applied and went through the process, some talking points were related to coursework in technical writing, but some of them were outside of coursework too. Some documents that I had in my portfolio included things I did through volunteer work, maybe some infographics I created, or a step-by-step guide for just a personal project of mine, things like that. So even though having a tech comm degree is usually what's looked for, having it's kind of one of those things where you can have a tech comm degree, but you may not really think like a technical writer. You may have just done the degree and been like, oh yeah, I'll do this tech comm internship just because I don't like tech writing that much, but I'll do it just because, and I don't really have projects to show for it. Versus, or I just submitted this project, got a C, I'm fine with that, goodbye. Versus, if you're someone who's passionate about technical writing and says, oh yeah, I wrote this manual for fun about how to, set up, I don't know, this machine I just got, or how to set up this piece of equipment, or I went to this nonprofit or this group and asked, hey, can I make a guide for you or make a manual for you, or help with your documentation and have that in my portfolio. So I know for me personally, I went in with a tech comm degree, but at the same time, a good the good thing about tech comm is you're always encouraged to have curiosity, ask questions. Since I don't have I went in with tech comm, but I didn't have a hardware and specific background. And so that's something where I had to fill in my gaps and was like, okay, I have, I have that desire to learn, but I don't have background in that in specific. And that's something that I learned over time, got a practice with, started picking pieces up both in the job and in the day-to-day. So yeah, it's kind of one of those situations where whatever place you're in, there's always something to gain, something to learn. And it never goes to waste, because even if I didn't get the L3harris position, I could have brought the things from before and after the interview, like, okay, I want to learn about this authoring tool. I want to learn more about Microsoft Word for TechCom. I want to learn more about how hardware documents work for if I, prepare for this interview and position. Those apply to L3harris, but those can apply anywhere too. So yeah, all that to say, definitely, I think get some portfolio items and, build up those personal projects, or even just see if you can, put yourself in extracurricularly to do documentation that's tech writing based, so that you can build those things up. And yeah, it definitely gives you an upper hand, even if you don't go in with a tech comm degree in specific.
Let me add one more quick point. If you do put together a portfolio, you have an online portfolio that you're proud of, attach that to your LinkedIn account. I have one interviewer that is notorious. Before she does any interview, she will go and do research on people from LinkedIn and other places. So that's a great way to, even before you've stepped into the interview, to make a good impression that, look, I've done this work. Please look at it. Sorry, continue.
Oh, that was all for me. But yeah, definitely agreed.
Yes, thank you. Those are some great tips. The next question is from Giovanni. How long do we have to apply for the internship? The internship closes December 31st, correct?
Yes, December 31st.
Okay, and I will be a bit later, I'll be putting in the chat some more information on the internship. So stay tuned for that. The next question is from Ashley. She is a recent graduate from the Tech Com major at UCF. She's asking if there are any current opportunities at L3harris for those who are looking for work but aren't currently students. And then Melissa, I just saw put in the chat, she gave you some resources for that. Do you all have anything to add, or should I move on to the next question?
Yeah, I was just going to say, sorry.
No,
I was just going to say, keep visiting the L3harris careers page, searching for new college grad or technical writing positions. We are, so what we represent is a kind of a small, well, we are one of 4 segments that L3harris is divided into, but L3harris has 50,000 employees across the globe. And so different organizations are always looking for new college grads. So you may live here in Florida, but there could be an opportunity for you to go to England and work as a new college grad technical writer, or you could go to Colorado or California or even Australia. So, just constantly be checking that career page and see what kind of opportunities are out there and apply.
Thank you. The next question is from Giovanni. For the internship, do we need to already have a relatively strong background in technical writing to have an opportunity for the internship? I know with the last question, you all touched on a bit, but would you like to speak more on that?
So it's an internship. It's not a level 1. So no, I don't need you to have an extremely strong background in technical writing or in a technical background. But once again, the more you can prepare by having something to talk about when somebody says in any tech writing interview, when somebody says, okay, tell me about your technical background, and you have something to talk about. I did a project on this type of motherboard, or I took an intro class on Python, or whatever it is. When you can show that you have that, like she said, curiosity. That's what I'm looking for. Is I want that a nice blank canvas that we can build on, but I want to know that you've got, you're interested, you're curious. A lot of what we do in tech writing requires a lot of personal drive. It's not a lot. It's not like a career maybe where you work on like a ticketing system where somebody says, here's your 5 things to do today. It's a lot more like somebody turns to you and goes, we don't know how this controller works with that robot. Can you go figure it out and come back when you know more? So to me, for my interns, for those interviews, it's a lot more of trying to get a feeling for your technical interest, your curiosity, less about I did, check dark, I did this and I did that and I did that. Does that help?
Thank you. And I assume if someone came from a technical background, but maybe not as strong as a writing background, the inverse would be true, still showing that curiosity and passion to learn more.
If you have a strong technical background without a strong English background, I would suggest you do a lot of self-directed learning about style guides, about interviewing technical subject matter experts. I would suggest, especially for our industry, you would go look at the TO style guide. I don't remember the mill standard, Melissa. What is it?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
It's a bunch of numbers.
sorry.
Yeah.
Go look at Mill Standard 7. Hold on. I had it up just so that I could say this. Sorry, 38784 is the
Yep.
technical manual style guide. The more you, when I was in school and they taught me style guides in every single class, and I was like, when is this going to come up? The answer is all the time, continuously. I'm continuously walking into a program and being like, okay, guys, what's your style baseline? What's your what are we doing here? And they go, So I'm constantly making my own style sheets. Okay, my lead told me from now on, we're going to only use capital letters when we talk about whatever this piece is, or we're going to use, one of the first questions I ask when I get to a program is, do we use preventative or do we use preventive? And the answer is always,
Yeah.
I don't know. So if you come from a strong technical without a strong English, that's what I would push for, is learn how to do standardized and group writing.
Thank
And
you.
to to add on to all that, I would say on top of classes and the degree are one way to get experience. Another is, extracurricular work and personal projects. Another one is online courses and certifications too. Well, I guess an add-on to that, you can, pick up individual courses even after your degree or on top of your current degree that are on the side. But online things like LinkedIn Learning or Udemy or any of those online reputable online course sharing websites or online sorry, words are hard. But those
English major.
English major, yeah. But any of
You're
those
right, we don't
online
talk.
websites, yeah, we don't talk, we just write. But any of those online websites where you can pick up courses and get that knowledge exchange in and get professional certifications on them, those are also great resources. It adds a lot to a resume to say, oh, I took this course and learned about fundamentals of tech writing. I took this course and learned about style guides, especially if you get into the specifics like this style guide or this type of documentation, hardware documentation, API documentation, anything like that. So I would say definitely research those because picking up skills and courses is also a good plus. And even at L3harris, we're always learning. There are courses that we can take on the job too for different areas in TechCom, just picking up skills here and there. So if you kind of have that initiative and say, oh, I've taken these courses and gotten these certifications on my own, that's, it's beneficial everywhere, but it'll especially be beneficial if you're applying for a position like this internship too, to have that extra bump on the resume and personal skills.
Yeah, thank you. The next question is Juan's. If you would like to go ahead and unmute.
Hello again. I had another question, and this one was for Mo. You mentioned that you decided to make the switch from sort of like law and that field into technical writing. If I may ask, what made you sort of switch into this field, and did you find the overlap to be, rewarding, or
Sure.
what were your experiences?
So brass tacks, the reason I knew I needed to change was because as a paralegal, I was more at like a secretarial level, both in the kind of work I got to work on and obviously in a pay grade method area. So I knew that I needed to go back to school, get my bachelor's degree. I also knew I needed my bachelor's degree just for myself, for that personal development to check off, yes, I've achieved this. So I was looking for what that needed to be, but I'd been looking for 15 years. What is cool enough to send me back to college? Like, what is interesting enough that it's worth taking a break from my job, putting everything on hold, and going back and restarting my career from scratch? And the day I found out technical writing was a thing, was pretty much the day I changed everything in my life. I came back to my husband and said, oh my gosh, did you know that there's a way for English majors to go work on tech? This is amazing. My husband is an electrical engineer, so he's talking about all this tech stuff. All of our friends are like computer science guys and stuff. So I was kind of immersed in that culture already, but I'm like, what am I going to do? I don't want to take all of these like high level math classes. That's not where my heart is. So what do I want to do? English major, working on technical information. Oh my gosh. And it has only gotten cooler. Every single day I walk in to the office, it gets more and more interesting. And I know I sound super like, yeah, right. No, it is so much fun. I've worked on robots. I've worked on airplanes. I've worked on antennas. So it's just all kinds of fun new stuff. And one of the things that I didn't anticipate when I moved over was um, this is the farthest thing from being a secretary there is. You're well, maybe not there is. You could be an astronaut, I suppose, but I am part of the team. When I go into a meeting and they say, okay, we're going to make this change and this change, I say, wait. I am standing up for my user. My user can't do that because of this reason and this reason. Can you please engineer this in a different way? I'm part of that team. I'm not just taking notes in the back. I'm actually engaged in how the product is developed. It is by far the coolest job there is. It just took me a while to find it.
And yes, she's like this every day. She's right across the hall from me, and she is like this every day. But I also call her my mini me, so I'm almost as bad. I actually started as an engineering major at UCF, and yeah, that didn't last very long. I'm not good with math bad, math hard. So- and my engineering advisor actually was like, "So there's this thing called tech comms. Maybe you should go." And I'm like, "Hey, yes, Leela, math bad." Um, so she's like, go check out TechCom. I think you might be better situated for that. And then she made the weirdest comment. She's like, besides, you're too friendly to be an engineer. Um, so I went, I talked to Dr. Flamia, and I was like, hey, this is for me. I can be technical, but not have to do math. It's a win-win. So.
Yeah, a lot of what we do day to day is a lot of analysis, a lot of research. If you want a job where you sit in your office and don't talk to people, this is not that job. It requires a lot of tact, a lot of communication skills, a ton of soft skills to go and talk to somebody, be like, hey, I found a problem, help, without alienating people. If you don't like having to relearn stuff, this isn't the place for you. But if you're the person, maybe you've got a job or had one in the past, and they come and say, hey, we have a brand new system to put on the cash registers, and you're the first one going over and being like, wow, how does it work? I'm going to push the buttons and find out how that works, and how does this integrate? How do I apply it to my day-to-day? If that's your kind of drive from the get-go, tech writing is the perfect place for you.
Especially in a company like L3harris, because so we hire for a skill, we don't hire for a program. So we hire the tech writer, and we just keep moving you from job to job to job. So like Mo said, she got to work on robots. She's worked on our F-35 program. She's worked in a classified environment. Now she's working in a communications program. So for me, obviously I've been with the company for quite some time. I've worked on communication systems. I've worked in classified environments, multiple different classified environments for different product lines. I've done strictly software technical writing. I then switched over and did strictly hardware technical writing. I worked on RF systems and communication systems and fiber optic systems. I've worked with the U.S. Air Force, the U.S. Space Force, the U.S. Army, the U.S. Marines. The only one I didn't get to work with yet is the Navy and the Coast Guard. I've worked for the Department of Defense, the FBI, and other three-letter organizations that I can't name. And every new program is a new opportunity to get in there and see how as I jokingly tell the engineers, and it's like, let me at it. I want to see how to break it. Um, So, and I actually, several times I would end up being the person who would get the beta software and I'd be hammering on it and I'd give them a call. Hey, did you know when you push this button and this button together, it does this? And they're like, well, you're not supposed to push those two together. And I'm like, but I can. So if I can do it, the end users can do it. So maybe you should fix that. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's a good point. Um, so it's definitely fun. It can be a lot of fun sitting there and learning a new system and a new customer and a new way of doing things and a new way of presenting the information. So, which by the way, the U.S. Marines do not like the word "the" in their documentation. That's fun.
I keep blaming that on the Army. Is that the Marines?
It's the Marines. It was the
Ah.
Marines. Yes, I had to take "the" out of a 900-page document. Great. How do you do that?
Very carefully.
What do you Control
Yeah.
A,
Yeah.
Control F?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the answer to that question. I'm going to take a minute now just to put the internship information in the chat. So if you didn't get the email from us about the internship, our link tree, it is the second link. That's the PDF that has the internship description. And then as Mo was saying, there's the email that's also in that job description, sending your resume to them by December 31st. If no one else has a question, I have one of my own. For each of you, what does a typical, day-to-day, day at work look for all of you?
You want to go in reverse order? We'll do John, then me, then Melissa.
Sure.
Yeah, sounds good. So on my end, I can share a little bit about what day-to-day looks like. Well, first I can share what kind of tasks that I currently undertake are. So, speaking broadly, I have two programs that I work for where I'm helping with their documentation, whether that be editing and reviewing current documents, doing reformatting, or helping add new procedures to them. So I have two different projects that I'm doing for that right now, and then kind of a department side project, which is reporting metrics for different programs throughout the IPS department and throughout for the benefit of upper management to see and to track and everything like that too. But when it comes to tech writing, a day in the day might look like attending a meeting for each of my programs, or scheduling meetings with team leads or the engineers to say, hey, I'm working on this document. I need to edit these chapters, and can you help me make sure that this information is up to date? Has anything been updated? Or, oh, there's an update going on next week. Can I attend that? Can I take a look at the equipment? So on and so forth. So usually meetings like that each day, or attending, whether they be wider team meetings or, scheduling some one-on-ones like that. And then other parts of the day, just allocating time to each of those programs. I might spend a few hours looking over a long form document for one of those. Say I'm working on, I'm working for a team that's developing an antenna or a communication system. I may get either one or several documents from that team where they say, okay, these need updating or these need a new chapter added to them. So I would spend some of that day just looking over what's there and adding in what I need to, whether it be, addressing comments that I received from engineers in the team meetings or in those one-on-one meetings, and going in and making those changes, making those edits, making those additions. And then for some more of the day, switching on to my other program and doing the same for documents that they need updating to or writing for. And then possibly closing out the day by, sending messages to either, fellow tech writers in IPS to do internal peer reviews, or to the engineers directly for when it's time for external peer reviews. Internally, it might look like, hey, I was editing this. I might have hit a snag when making these updates. Can you help me with that? And one example of that is on our team, Mo is known as the Microsoft Word Wizard. Any question that we have, we go over to her. And if one of us has a question, hey, this is giving us trouble to edit, or how do you do this? Or, oh, the signature page is not editing, it's not looking right. Can you help me with that? We can go over to her with that. So a little bit of that towards the end of the day, and maybe, towards the end of the week, a day might also look like handing off those documents by email or on an additional call to say, hey, subject matter expert, project manager, here's what I have this week. Can you look over it for me? Or can we circle back next week to, look all of it over and see if things are good to go, if you need extra reviews, all of that. So yeah, that was a lot all at once. Hopefully it didn't sound like rambling, but in short, throughout the day, it might look a little different each day, but, a couple of meetings, either team-based or one-on-one with someone I need information from. And then, time allocated each day to either editing, formatting, or adding to or writing extra pieces for documentation that I have. And then some more of that day also spent doing peer review processes as well, whether that be with fellow tech writers on my team or directly with the subject matter experts who I'm getting information from, the engineers who I'm going to ultimately deliver the document to, depending on the scale of the change and depending on what stage of the documentation process I'm in, how high up, how high up we need to escalate it, how far along in completion it is. So yeah, that's a little bit of what it looks like, and hopefully that gives a good idea, at least from the tech writer standpoint.
So I'm going to try not to repeat anything John said, but know that I do all of that stuff that he said as well. As new college grads, we're definitely spending a lot of time reading and editing and talking to people. But in addition to that, I've recently been doing a lot of run-throughs. The engineering team has to test their product, but the technical writing team has to test our product, which is the user manual, the technical order in my case. So I actually will go out to the lab. I'll find an adult. It's usually like one of the test engineers, and I'll find the piece of equipment that I need, and I'll take out my technical order, and we'll sit down and we'll run it on that piece of equipment. I make all the red lines. I go back. We come back the next day. We run it again. No red lines. Hooray! It's certified, and we move on. That one has been one of the most intimidating things that I've done in the last year, is learning how to do that, because it's definitely taking the step from, yeah, I'm writing things down, this is great, to now I'm putting it into practice, and if I'm wrong, there could be consequences. It's been intimidating, but so much fun to be able to see what was only in your head, and now it's actually acting out. And usually when you're sitting with those subject matter experts get a bad rap in the tech writing community, because there's always that one that's a little bit hard to get a hold of, or when you do get a hold of him, he doesn't answer the exact question. But by and large, the subject matter experts love what they do. They've been doing it for 5, 10, 20, 30, 40 years. So if you ask them about their area of interest, they want to tell you. They will tell you everything you need to know about it. They will give you background. They will answer questions. Off track, but that's so doing run-throughs has been a big part of my day over the last couple of months. I had to translate a manufacturer's manual from their published manual into our TO writing style, so that it matched the rest of the tech orders, the user manual's voice, and all of the writing conventions that we'd already put in place. We did an entire setup and teardown of a large piece of equipment a few months ago. Luckily, we did that in the middle of summer, so we were outside taking this whole thing apart, putting it in its transport cases, and taking it all back out and putting it back up again. Halfway through, I'm like, what if we just leave it in the boxes until it gets cooler? But we made it through. We did the whole thing. Today actually was the first day of an in-process review with my customer. In-process review means that about a month ago, we handed them a read-ahead copy of our books as they stand now. This program has 7 books that we're working on right now, plus 2 more books that I worked on and did in-process review several months ago on them. So we sent them the read-ahead. They went through and made a whole bunch of comments. They sent those comments to us. We went through and accepted the ones we could. Oh yeah, you're right, that's a typo. Oh, yep, I can fix that, no problem. Today, we're actually sitting in the room with 10 of my customers, going through each of the comments that I didn't understand or I didn't agree with and getting clarification so that we can make the documentation better. That was an amazing experience because I had these guys that they're my user, they're the one I'm writing to, and they're explaining like, oh no, when we do that activity, giving me too much detail ties my hands. Or when I do that activity, I'm going to need an extra warning so that I can keep my guys safe. So every day is a little bit different. You're always going to be researching. You're always going to be formatting and editing. But as a program moves through the different phases, your day may change.
So as for me, I do not get to do technical writing that much anymore. So as I said, I've moved into the engineering management position. So I manage everybody. I'm in meetings. I'm always in meetings. My door is always closed. Um, so I attend a lot of meetings. I have to do a lot of presentations, collecting data, for upper management, making sure that my people like Mo and like John have work. Assigning tasking, making sure that the right person is in the right position, working with the different programs, the different chief engineers, vice presidents, to just making sure that our people are getting the support that they need and the representation that they need, and that they have work to do. So that is my job. I am literally management. So but I do every once in a while, like, hey, I can peer review. I can still do that. Oh, you have a FrameMaker question? Please come to me for FrameMaker. Um, Mo is the Word person. I am the FrameMaker person. So yeah, I try very hard, but I don't get to do tech writing that much anymore.
Yeah, thank you. That was a great snapshot of the workday for each of you. Another question, actually, Juan has a question, so feel free to ask.
Sorry for all these questions, guys. I'm very passionate about the field and very curious about it. Um, I uh, I don't recall quite who said it, but somebody mentioned that as part of the job, you may be sent to England to work. And going off of that, are there opportunities to work, let's say abroad or in different, parts of the country, within the field? Because
Oh,
at least for me, I would love a job that allows me to like travel around and visit different parts. So how does that?
right. So there we had, like I mentioned, the L3harris is divided into four different segments. For us, we are the space and airborne. So for us, primarily, if you were to travel, if you were on a program, you might be able to travel to a customer site. Matter of fact, they're not technical writers, though John supports the program. John, you should like talk to Stuart and say you need to carry Shantae's bags to Hawaii. So we have two people going to Hawaii on the week after Thanksgiving. They're going to be spending 3 weeks in Hawaii, installing an antenna. So yeah, John, you need to kind of muscle your way into a trip to Hawaii. Um, but for one of the classified programs, people do get to travel up to Northern Virginia, to support and work with the customer in Northern Virginia on a classified program. We do have Colorado Springs. Matter of fact, the customer that Mo works with. The sustainment side of the house. So after the system is developed here in Florida, it then transfers out to Colorado Springs for them to sustain the system. So there's opportunities to go out to Colorado. You can get a job out there in Colorado, or you can travel out there. So there are programs in England. We do have a location in England. I know several years ago there was actually an opening for a technical writer in England. And actually about 15 years ago there was one in Edinburgh, because I kind of was like, hey, I would like to live in Edinburgh, and then I didn't apply for it. But um, And we have recently just Australia is booming. We don't have any technical writers in Australia that I'm aware of at this moment, but that doesn't mean that they won't need them in the future because they are building up their workforce there, and more programs are starting to happen in Australia. Um, we have there's sites in California, so Vandenberg and Van Nuys and Carlsbad have different locations that opportunities to travel out there. Our technical writing subject matter expert was just out in Carlsbad for a week last week. So she was out there supporting customer meetings. So yeah, there are opportunities to travel to support installations or even to relocate if there's a technical writing position that you see you can relocate. We have a group of technical writers up in Ashburn, Virginia. I know that there are technical writers in where is it? Montreal or Toronto?
I was going to say Ontario. So,
Yeah. So we have people, they're not part of our segment. They're on the segment called IMS. They support out of Canada. So, and they have a group of technical writers doing S1000D up there. So there are opportunities to get work all over the world.
Thank you. So as we head into our last 10 minutes of the panel, I have two final questions, a speed round, if you will. So the first question is from Giovanni, asking if while writing, if it's usually you usually work in a team or if you solo write more often.
as a new college grad, I think probably our new college grads spend more time doing solo editing than while they're waiting for their first full-time assignment. So at least in the way it works for us structurally, mechanically, there is kind of a period at the beginning where you're doing a lot of work. Somebody's going to give you an assignment, you're going to do the work, you're going to hand it back, you're going to get some feedback, but it's not necessarily sort of that integrated feeling. But it seems pretty consistent that once you get that first full-time assignment, they usually scoop you right up because they're like, come here, I got to show you this thing. And over here, we've got this thing due. So you're gonna, it's very much collaborative writing. You're never going to write something in a vacuum. You're never going to write on white paper. You're always going to be getting content from somewhere and incorporating it. It's a lot of compiling information from various places, and those places are often other people's brains. So I would not consider it solo work, except for in like bits and pieces. You might get into a place where a program is like, I need this library converted over to whatever it is, S1000D. Okay, well, yeah, you might kind of be on your own for a little while, but for the most part, you're usually with several other people doing stuff.
And I can hop in and say, especially for the internship, you won't be expected to, hop right in day one.
Yep.
Okay, write 100 pages on this piece of equipment on your own.
Yeah.
Due at the end of the week. That won't be the case. There's a lot of, collaborating. There's peer mentorship that we offer to our interns too. So you're paired up with, a fellow member of our IPS team, and throughout the time of your internship, you have a person who you can ask questions to, whether they be tech writing based or, general questions, whether about the company or about, a product or something like that. If you're able to collaborate with them on that certain task. And, sometimes you will get, that direct labor work where you're signed off to a specific program and you do writing for equipment that they're making. But there are also, internship assignments that are specifically created for interns so that you can, so that you're not forced to hit the ground running, so that you have some documentation tasks that will, still support our IPS department, but allow you to, work at a good pace, pick up and utilize those tech writing skills before you move on to, okay, now you can help write these documents or you can write these procedures. So yeah, we definitely kind of ease you into things during the internship. And then, once they're either later on in the process or a new grad, that's when you kind of, there's always going to be the support, but there's less, oversight basically. But you're never going to work in a vacuum, as Melissa said.
I would push back a little bit and say that the internship, I think, is opposite. The internship is really built to try and get you exposed to the most amount of information, the most amount of IPS topics, the most programs, the most people. We're trying to fit as much information into 10 weeks as we can. So I'm glad you mentioned it, John, because the internship itself has actually, Melissa designed it to be kind of keeping you moving at a constant pace so that we can get as much exposure as we can in the 10 weeks we have you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And even after, so even after the internship, say you come to work at L3harris in the department, our department is very friendly, and we go out of our way to make sure that nobody feels like they are in a silo, that they are by themselves, and they don't have somebody to reach out to. So you even you're always going to have a group leader. So Mo forgot to mention that one of her daily tasks is her being our little mama duck. And herding and collecting all of her new college grads. So you're always going to have a group leader who is there to make sure that you are getting the answers that you need, the support that you need, and your career goals are being met and helping you align with that. And then we have super group leads and subject matter experts within the department that are always willing to mentor somebody on any career growth, any path direction that they want to go. And then, of course, me with my, I always have an open door policy. Sometimes I wish people would knock on my door in the middle of a meeting so I could get out of the meeting. But so I have an open door policy. You have a question. If there's a way I can get you an answer, or if I can help find the answer for you or point you to somebody who can get that answer, that's what our department does best. We are definitely a very friendly and engaging group.
Mm-hmm. I would definitely agree and kind of bounce back and say that's, the start of working with L3harris is kind of the best of both worlds. We are exposed to a lot, and you have that support system, multiple support systems even. So you're kind of covered on both ends when it comes to that.
Great, best of both worlds then. Our last question is from Kat, saying that she heard that FrameMaker was mentioned, and asking if there are any other software programs that you would recommend aspiring technical writers to become familiar with.
FrameMaker, you should be cognizant of what it is. You don't necessarily need to spend a lot of time becoming an expert until you're assigned to a program that uses it. But being able to speak about it in an interview is not a bad thing. It was the industry standard for many, many years. So if you're talking to a senior technical writer, they will probably appreciate that you know what FrameMaker is, what that kind of history is. Microsoft Word is an incredibly powerful tool. It has borrowed a lot from FrameMaker over the years. So it used to just be word processing, and FrameMaker was what you would build a book in. Word has adopted a lot of those tools, but they're kind of hidden. They're inside menus. You have to find them in the options. So I would definitely take the time to become, if you can find an expert MS Word course, go take it. If you can learn about how style library is created and applied, if you can learn about how table styles work, if you can learn about how fields work and can be viewed and updated, all that stuff, the stuff that's kind of past, I wrote a paragraph and I applied a heading. That's great. That's where you have to start. But anything you can do to learn more about how Word works. The other thing I would suggest is learning HTML and CSS, even at a basic level. I think it's really cool that HTML, CSS, and Word and FrameMaker all kind of use the same idea of tagging a piece of text as a certain kind of paragraph, and then creating a style to apply assigned to that tag. So everything that's tagged that way gets that style. That goes through all three of those tools, but having an HTML and CSS understanding of those two things, I think is really important. They say that, so HTML is more of a tagging system and less of an actual language. but they say that if you know one language, we can teach you all the rest of the programming languages. It sort of works the same way. If you know one tagging system, we can teach you XML. We can teach you HTML is in XML, but still, if you understand one set of tagging systems, we can apply that to other things. You should probably have at least one image creation and editing tool under your belt that you feel pretty comfortable talking about. It doesn't have to be Photoshop. You could, I did a program 2 years ago, a year ago, where my SME was like, listen, you're just going to open it in Paint and you're going to put a white rectangle over these arrows, and that's the figure I need. Understanding how to use being able to speak about a tool that you use for image generation is important. Some companies will have technical illustrators as part of the team. On the programs I've worked on so far, that has not been the case. So I actually get to touch the pictures sometimes. What else? Melissa, John, do you have any others that you can think of?
Learn the difference between structured and unstructured authoring. Documentation, that is something, it's you wouldn't think that so it's not specifically a tool, but being able to understand the difference between the two does make a difference. And yeah, HTML, XML, you don't need to be an expert, but having an understanding of that. Word, FrameMaker, if so as a student, you can get a student version of FrameMaker, and there are some free YouTubes. I think there's 6 different lessons that are out on YouTube free for anybody to use. They're about an hour and a half long, and they are authorized by Adobe. So they are excellent. I discovered them, I ran through them, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. I don't have to teach anybody how to do FrameMaker anymore. Just go here. So FrameMaker is an extremely powerful tool. Word, I still hate it, but I I know it is a lot better than when I first started using it years and years and years ago. Mo is definitely our word expert, so if we have major questions, we go to her. We also use Dreamweaver and Confluence a lot, Photoshop, Illustrator, Snagit. What's the one that Chad was always using? The drawing tool Chad was using?
Creo.
Creo
is a
yes.
3D modeling program. So being able to navigate in a 3D modeling program was incredible, because instead of having to make sure we timed it right, that when they pulled this piece apart, we were there with a camera to take a picture real quick before they put it back together again. When we were in the 3D model, we could take it apart in the model, take a screenshot, and we didn't have to bother anyway. Sorry. 3D modeling. Woo!
Yeah. And on top of all that, I would also add InDesign is good for it's good to get experience in that. Depends on the project you're assigned to, but Microsoft Visio is a good one too. I've had a project where I've been assigned to create wiring diagrams. So the wiring, the cables, the plugs, the placement of all that was being rearranged in the equipment that I was writing about. And so in Microsoft Visio, I went in and connected lines, created a diagram, connected lines between here's where the plug is, here's what the plug color is, here's where it connects to, here's the in, the out, all of that, so that it all goes together into one cohesive diagram. So Visio is good for that. And I would also say, on top of things like HTML, CSS, SharePoint familiarity is good too, just in terms of, getting around online documentation, or, be familiar with, documentation repositories or file systems, online publishing. Those are good ones to be familiar with, I would say, on top of everything Melissa and Mo mentioned.
Yeah, thank you. I have a new list of things to look at. That brings us to the end of our panel. If people would like to stay after a couple of minutes, I would love to take a group picture. But besides that, thank you to all of our panelists again. I know I myself learned a lot, so thank you for giving us your time this evening to talk about technical writing in L3harris. And for the audience, remember the internship, it's on our link tree. And with that, thank you.